Hey friends, it is time for another bike route report. In this episode, I will take you on one of my favorite loops, a loop that has served me very well over the years. An 18-mile or so ride from Peninsula Park out to Kelley Point Park. Goes on North Rosa Parks Way, Willamette Boulevard over to the St. John's Bridge, up through St. John's via Lombard, staying on the car-free multi-use path through Marine Drive and Smith and Bybee Lakes, and then over to the Columbia Slough, connecting back via Vancouver, and a little bit of fun through Farragut Park and back to Peninsula. So let's get going. On this trip, I grabbed my CoMotion drop bar road bike. I've got big, wide, slick tires on this thing. It's a lot of fun. Start on the Rosa Parks Way protected bike lane. This street has undergone just a massive transformation in the 15 years since I moved into this neighborhood. But before I get to that, look at this section as we cross over I-5, which is managed by the Oregon Department of Transportation. You'll notice how in 2019, ODOT actually ground away this P-BOT bike lane stripe in order to make the bike lane narrower and make the driving lane wider. Oh, all in protection of their sweet, sweet freeway drivers. Anyways, back to Rosa Parks Way. Look at this nice median crossing here at North Concord, which is a neighborhood greenway. P-BOT has really done amazing work. I think Rosa Parks is probably one of the best examples of how they've transformed a street, and that will be a topic of a separate video. But look at how bicycle riders have protection via this concrete curb and also sometimes parked cars. Getting onto North Willamette Boulevard here, you lose that protection. All you've got is a buffer stripe. Now, the city of Portland redid Willamette Boulevard, which is a really important street in the bike network. They redid it in 2017 to remove some of the auto traffic and expand this bike lane here, which has very, very good views of downtown and Forest Park. But they didn't add any protection at all in terms of physical protection. So all we've got is a buffered bike lane, but it still is pretty stressful to ride here. And as you can see, when you get north of Columbia Park, we lose that buffer and there are cars parked in the parking lane, and it just doesn't feel that great. And getting over to University of Portland, still on Willamette Boulevard here, just to underscore how popular and important this road is for bicycle riders. You can see all the bike traffic that I saw on my ride there last weekend. This road is just, it narrows down into a bike lane only. This is like a 1990s striped bike lane. The really good news is that thanks to a big federal grant and a project from P-BOT called the Willamette Boulevard Active Transportation Corridor, this is going to get a major upgrade that'll be done by 2025 with full protected bike lanes. And right here at Alma, we have a furthering of the erosion of the good bikeway as we lose the bike lane completely from here for the next mile and a half at least or so to North Richmond, which is right at sort of the entrance to the downtown St. John's area. So as you can see, no protection at all for bike riders. This little stretch of Willamette, as you get under the St. John's Bridge, is just a chill residential street, more of like a shared lane environment. There is the really awesome St. John's Bridge. You've got to take time when you do this loop to give this thing the look that it deserves, sampling some of the local St. John's character there. Going under the bridge is always fun. Sometimes I'll loop down through Cathedral Park just for good measure. Continuing on Willamette here, this is a stretch that's in a very nice residential area. It's very calm, and you got to follow the 40-mile loop signs to stay on the course. This is approaching Lombard here as we went a little bit to the east before continuing north on Lombard. Check out this new, relatively new, protected bikeway here. Of course, some people still want to park here. This guy was in a tow truck, so I kind of gave him a little leeway, although it was annoying. The thing you really want to keep track of on this section of Lombard are these big industrial driveways that can really creep up on you, and folks may not be expecting a lot of bike traffic, so use caution. This is a Burgard Bridge, which if you follow BikePortland, you'll see that the city recently got a big federal grant thanks to the Biden administration to replace this. So while it's super annoying now and not the greatest stretch of this route, it's going to soon have a protected bike lane, a two-way protected bikeway on the east side of the new bridge once it comes in the next couple years. Unfortunately, out here, the conditions are always lacking. There's just very little maintenance, if any, out here on this bike lane, which is really unfortunate. But coming up a little bit north as you get closer to like where Lombard meets Columbia, the big Northwest container service here with the containers on the right, there's this off-street protected path, physically protected biking and walking path is really nice. These big driveways are full of really long trucks, so you've got to be on your best cautionary behavior here and make sure that nobody is coming across your path as you ride on this section of it. Coming up to Columbia, this has never really felt super good to me. The good thing is there's never a lot of traffic, but the traffic that is here is often big truck drivers. So you want to be careful. You'll see how I sort of orient myself to get the signal and to cross Columbia. And then when I get up here, unfortunately, I've just started making the decision to just ditch this bike lane altogether and go up onto the sidewalk, mostly because the speeds are kind of high. And as you can see, there's no protection. Also because the maintenance is terrible out here. This is totally unacceptable. I wish the city would do a better job keeping this clean, because it is a really popular place for people to ride, and you can tell why. There's a lot of great views and a lot of cool things up here to access. This is the old St. John's landfill that is going to eventually be a nice new connection to Kelley Point Park via a multi-use path, so we will never have to ride over this bridge in the future. So coming back down on and reconnecting with the multi-use path, yeah, look at the conditions here. Big bump. This is just not great. Not a lot of attention paid to bicycle traffic out here. This big thing was in the way. I had to get off my bike and remove it. We are still south of Kelley Point Park here, and we're on, I guess this is called like the Marine Drive Trail at this point. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it's a separated multi-use path. So bicycles are definitely common here. People are sort of expect there to be bicycle riders since it's such a popular loop. The one big thing to keep a lookout on here are these odd crossings where you have to do a bunch of turns to get to the other side. It's actually good how they orient you toward the traffic so you can't miss a big truck coming, but you still definitely want to keep your head on a swivel as you make these crossings. The driveways are another part of this route that you really want to pay attention to. I like to sometimes leave the path and have a little bit of fun in the grass. Like when I used to be training for cyclocross, I do little slaloms between the trees just for some added extracurricular fun. So yeah, it stays highly industrial as I get closer to Kelley Point Park, and this is the little slough here as you get right to the turnoff to go to Kelley Point Park. I'd recommend going out there sometime, giving it a loop. I didn't have time to do it on this day, but I go out there a lot. You can check out the beach where the Columbia and the Willamette meet, and it's just kind of a cool place to explore. I always like that sign that says 40-mile loop ends, which, is sort of ironic because loops never end. But anyway, this parking lot is crazy. This is, people don't know that the Port of Portland is one of the largest importers of cars in terms of a port of entry of automobiles on the West Coast. Out here on Marine Drive is where a lot of this illegal street racing happens. You'll see the skid marks, and unfortunately, there are quite a few memorials on the side of this road. Good thing there's an off-street path here because, again, the bike lane is in terrible shape, and it's also inhabited by a lot of fast-moving truck operators. Those folks are probably headed out to the water at Kelley Point Park on this day because it's just an awesome place to go. And this is such a fun route because you can do a lot of this route from North Portland neighborhoods without ever really going on the street by staying on this nice path. Another fun thing is as you get closer to Smith and Bybee Lakes, I always take this little bit of extracurricular here. Although it seems like this time was a lot sandier than in the past. That might be because there's more traffic going back here. It was also, unfortunately, a lot dirtier and a lot more full of trash than I've ever seen it, actually, in all the years I've been doing it. I guess there's more people living back here than there have been in the past, which is sad on a lot of different levels, but it's still fun to come back here, get to spin the legs on some dirt and sand, and then you get this fun little single track, and it finally opens up and hardens up, and you can take a second to take a breath and just, soak up this really, really awesome view of the lakes. This is a Metro-owned property. There's fun hiking to do in here. I used to take my kids in here when they were younger. And on a bike, it's really great too. You can't go inside the actual park on a bike. You'll see there is a sign that says bikes prohibited, but you can go by it, and you can also park and hike in if you want. Unfortunately, it looks like the bike racks had been removed. I hope that that's temporary. I hope that they put some bike racks back here so that folks can do this Interlakes Trail. Right there is the sign that says no biking. So continuing, I guess this is probably northeast. This is the path that's in the Smith and Bybee Lakes Park still. On the left there's a bathroom and a place to park cars. You can tell it's a popular place for people to ride bikes. It's always fun to take a look at the train and all the graffiti. Sometimes there's some bumps on the path, though, because of tree roots and other problems, so I'll get over into the car lane just to get a smoother ride. And there's a short section of it that's totally car free, which is always a cause for celebration. Although on this day, unfortunately, there was a guy who managed to get a car back here and was just parked, and I'm not sure what he was doing, but that was a bummer to see after I took these shots of me being happy. Anyways, this road will put you out onto, I believe this is called North Portland Highway or North Portland Road. It can be a dicey crossing if it's busy because the speeds are really high, but thankfully it's never that busy, so it's pretty easy to get across. And here we are headed south now, kind of coming back toward the Columbia Slough. That's North Portland Road to my right, and I'm on this another section of the off-highway path. One of the highlights during this time of year is always to pull over and get some of the really fresh blackberries, which are actually perfect right now. And I had a clip of me sticking this berry in my mouth, but I must have bungled it somehow, so you can't see it. Sorry about that. So keeping south here toward the Columbia Slough, now we are near the water sewage treatment plant, the City of Portland Water Bureau plant. And now we're basically on the Columbia Slough Trail, which is unpaved between the water filtration plant and Portland International Raceway and Schmear Road and North Denver Avenue. So this is what it looks like if you've never been out there. That little yellow barricade there is where the Portland Parks Bureau tried to put that to keep people from driving on this path. I have very, very rarely seen a car on this path, but apparently it does happen. This can be really fun if you're into gravel and unpaved riding. This is an awesome diversion, and because it's so close to where a lot of folks live, it's a pretty quick place to just escape the city and have some fun riding, like if you're pressed for time or if you just have a lunch break or something like that. Usually during the summer, there's car races going on. We definitely come out here sometimes and check people out racing around the track. It's really beautiful. I love this. I love this part of the Columbia Slough Trail. It always satisfies and never really disappoints. The only thing that has bummed me out over the years is how there's so many people living along the path, and it's just, it's sad to see them out there, and it's full of trash a lot of times and abandoned cars and other stuff like that. So I hope we can do better keeping this clean. This part of Schmear Road is sort of notorious. You could see I went through what was a bonfire, but today on this trip, it looked okay. Now we're getting back closer to North Vancouver Avenue on the Columbia Slough path. So to my left there is the East Delta Park Shopping Center. This is what it looks like under the I-5 freeway right now. This is a lot of folks living. I've had some people emailing me with concerns about that, so I wanted to slow it down and give you a sense of what it looked like. But just beyond that, it's very smooth sailing on the path as you get up to North Vancouver Avenue. I was really loving this day. It was so nice out. We finally had a brief reprieve from the heat. That road in the distance there is North Vancouver Avenue. Unfortunately, the connection back into the North Portland neighborhoods from here is way less than ideal. The city could definitely do a better job of making a protected bike lane. As you can see, there is a lot of truck traffic because it crosses Columbia Boulevard, which is a very heavy freight route. I'm always stressed as I wait at this really wide intersection of North Vancouver and North Columbia Boulevard. There was a truck behind me and another one pulled up by the time the light turned green. This is looking up at North Vancouver. The city's done what they can to kind of protect the bike lane, but it still doesn't feel that great. It could be a lot better. They could extend it out and maybe make a multi-use path extension of that sidewalk right there. So right on my left at this point is the Nabisco factory. You can often smell cookies wafting through the air and whatever else they're making that day. And then this is Farragut Park. It's another place I like to have a little diversion and head into the park and have some fun. It's just a beautiful park. There's some really old trees, a big grove of timber down in there that I actually walk my dog in a lot of times. And if you've never seen it, go up to the playground and give a look to this really cool mural, which is just on a kickball backstop in the playground. Highly recommend checking that out. It's kind of a hidden gem. And then you're back onto neighborhood streets just near Farragut Park. And then this is North Albina coming up to Lombard again. And look at this nice leading pedestrian interval the city of Portland has put in. telling folks don't turn right, and then giving walkers a green light. And of course, on my bike, I always take the pre-green as well, because we'll do it eventually legally, but I do it now because it's safer. And then I'm back in the neighborhood. Had a great ride. Thanks for joining me on this bike route report. Stay tuned for the next one, and let me know where you want me to check out, and I'll maybe come to your neighborhood to do your favorite loop next time.